Okay, y'all, you know when the mini mic is out, it means we're going to be yapping. So let's talk about the SJM podcast on Call Her Daddy. I feel like I have so many things that I wanted to say that I literally paused everything I was doing today and I was like, I'm going to record this. Well, if you're as crazy as I am, but like, I took notes. I felt like there was so much that happened in that podcast and there was so much that I wanted to talk about that like I didn't want to like skip over anything. And so I thought I would kind of go through like what my thoughts were, how I felt about everything, and then we can just yap about it. The thing I have to say right off the bat is I just loved how real she was. I felt like I was literally like watching my best friend on this podcast. It was so normal and so real, and like everything she shared was so raw and so genuine. And I feel like so often we just don't get to see that side of authors. So it was really nice to like not just get to hear this book announcement, because to be quite honest, the book announcement obviously is great, but like getting to know her as a person, getting to know why she did certain things with the characters, like it truly, I felt like it was just like the best interview I've seen of her yet. I gotta say, she took me out every time she brought up Legolas, because same girl. Really, every time she brought him up, and like when she was talking about like, what if you got your period while you were in Mordor, and like nobody talks about that. Yes, thank you for bringing this up. These are like the crazy thoughts that I have while I'm reading Romantasy. And like you guys, we've talked about some of these before, but it's so funny to like actually sit down and hear an author saying it, because it's like, yeah, that's so real. Also loved so much that she was like, I didn't like come up with Aelin, like Aelin just pushed herself out of like my brain basically. Literally, yes, that is her whole vibe. Not fit Aelin any better. I think what was the most moving part about all of this, though, and being that I am a mother myself and being someone who is pregnant, was hearing her actual perspective on the whole like Feyre pregnancy, Feyre birth story, like all of that. Because I feel like so many people were just like, I don't like the pregnancy trope. And granted, like I'm not one that really loves that either. It's not my favorite. I appreciate like the why behind it and hearing like why she made it so traumatic, why she made it so like drastic, and like her own story. As someone who did have a fairly traumatic like first birth story, it's truly something that you can't explain to people and nobody can really understand unless you experience it. And like for me personally, I don't talk about like a lot of my personal life outside of like books and stuff, but hearing her talk about like how traumatic her C-section was, how like she didn't know what was going on, I have a pretty similar story. And when she got to the part where she talked about how like she loves and adores her children and she would do anything for them and like they're the light of her life, but she hated being pregnant, that's literally how I've felt too. And it's not that like pregnancy isn't a beautiful thing, and it's not that like it's not an amazing journey. It's just such an exhausting, and like being someone who is now on my third pregnancy, hearing her bring it to life in a respectful way that was like so true to like my experience and like I'm sure other women out there, and hearing about how like there's just this constant fear while you're pregnant. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have heard just like horror stories while I'm pregnant, or thought about bad things, or experienced things, and it's just, it is such a hard journey that like no women ever seem to talk about. They only talk about like the beautiful side of pregnancy, which it is, like don't get me wrong, it's also freaking hard. And hearing her say that, I felt so validated as a woman and like as a mother, and being again that this is my third pregnancy and it'll be my third C-section. It was so refreshing to hear an author just bring it to life and be so real about it. And then of course I truly did appreciate when she got into the whole her why behind Nesta. Her whole approach with the whole Nesta story was just, it was so refreshing. I feel like Nesta gets such a bad rap and people are so mean about her, but they don't understand her. And being someone who has been through traumatic things, and like I handle a lot of my emotions the way that Nesta does, all of her panic attacks, all of her anxiety, all of her issues, and knowing that came from a real place and a real person, it just made me love Nesta even more. And honestly, SJM is like my hero for finally talking about like all of the struggles around motherhood, mental health, everything about it. For me personally, I feel like that was more meaningful and more special than even the book announcements themselves, which again, they were great, but like hearing somebody talk about that and bring it to the forefront where thousands of people will see this is just incredible. And it's truly something that was so special. Now to lighten it up a bit, I truly did love like all the little things she was would say about like, if you were to look up my Google search history, it would be like sexy names for characters and then when's the next Labubu drop? Because same girl. Like, I felt like she was so real and so normal, and I loved every bit of that. I also appreciated too that we got into the whole part about Elaine and how, like, who freaking knows if she's gonna accept the bond. Like, she went through some damn trauma, and like, I feel like nobody talks about that. How do you go from like living this like, Elaine didn't have the best life to begin with, but like, she went from just a normal human life to now eternity. And I feel like nobody acknowledges that and nobody talks about that. So I guess that's a bookish hot take, is like, I feel like people are so quick to be like, who's Elaine going to be with? Who's she going to date? Maybe the girl just has some trauma that she needs to work through. Maybe she's just been through enough that like, she doesn't freaking know. I feel like so much people are like, well, I want her to have a mate. I want her to have a love story. I want her to have it later. And it's like, girl, maybe she needs to like process what she just went through. I feel like I can relate to Elaine in so many ways. And I feel like I'm kind of like the peacekeeper of my siblings. Like, I'm the middle child. Like, I feel like Elaine, a lot of the time, she's very sensitive. She's still going through her own shit in her own way. And I feel like not enough credit is given to her in that sense. I just feel like so often people are so fixated on like, who's she gonna date? Who's she gonna be with? And to be honest, like, what does that matter? I want to know, like, what are her powers that she got from the cauldron? What is her story gonna be? Because I feel like people are so fixated on the love story, but they're not fixated on anything to do with her at all. And like, what's her character arc going to be? That's what I want to know. Really, really appreciated that she finally talked about how Romantasy realm, how people think that you can't have like the spice scenes, the sexy scenes, the smut, the things like that. It can only be fantasy, or it can only be like about the plot. And I feel like the way that she does it, it's not just about the spices. There's like depth to the story, and there's reasons why everything leads to a certain point. I feel like so often people get so caught up in the whole like, oh, it's smut, you're reading smut, and they don't acknowledge that like there's an actual story behind it too, and there's reasons why these things are woven in. So I really appreciated that she got into that topic and was like, hey, basically like, knock it off. It's not just about that. And even if it was, who freaking cares? Like, just let people read, let them live their life. And now for the grand finale, 3 freaking books. Like, literally was not expecting that. I think that was the biggest plot twist in SJM history. And I actually appreciated that she said that the reason why they didn't come out right away is because she had to work through some shit. Because guess what? Authors are people too. Rebecca Yarros had to take a freaking year or so off of Onyx Storm and like is just now diving back into it. I feel like there's this pressure that's put on these authors that you have to get it done. You have to get it done now. Like with these deadlines and these major publishers and just like this rush to get it done, so many people forget that there's a real person behind it, and like the person has value too. I really loved when she said that like she does have value as a person beyond just her books, because oh my gosh, did that hit me in the freaking feelings so hard. I feel like so often as an artist myself, and like as somebody who's dove into like a creative realm, that it became a job, and it becomes less fun, to be quite honest. Do it because you're passionate about it and you love it, and it's so hard when people can't acknowledge that like you're a person too and you have feelings too. And I don't think it's fair that she just has to be put in this constant like, she's a machine, she's got to crank out these books as fast as she can, because that's just not reality, and it's just not sustainable. Really appreciated that she did say that, because I felt like it's nice to see like the human being behind it all. I feel like I have so many more things I could say. Honestly, I have to give Alex the credit where it's due. That was probably, for me personally, one of the best interviews, in the sense of she asked all the questions that like we all wanted to know as readers. And even though like Sarah couldn't answer a lot of them, it was nice to see like she did try, and she did like ask important questions that fueled further conversation. And just overall, I really enjoyed it. Truly, like, I'm so excited. I cannot believe we're going to have 3 more freaking books. I was getting to the end of her books because I'm on Crescent City #2. And I was like, after this is the last one. And to know I have 3 more books that are coming is just so exciting. What were y'all's thoughts? How did you feel about it? Let's talk about it in the comments below.